Welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus. I'm going to start by saying you're going to be offended at some point during this video, so buckle in, because we're going to be talking about gayness, sodomy, sexual immorality, choice, gender and orientation choice, or not, as the case may be for some people. Let's talk about how do we know whether this is a choice that we make or not. Are we born with it? Or is it something we have control over? Because you can't have it both ways, right? That's the initial proposition. And I'm going to start by saying you can Google this now. You can use ChatGPT. You can say to ChatGPT, what is sexual preference, right? And it will give you a big long list of articles and it will explain to you what sexual preference is. Well, around about halfway down, it will start calling it sexual orientation. Then you'll say, why are you calling it sexual orientation now, not preference anymore? And then it will say, because it is not a preference, right? So it's not something which is in your control. You don't decide your sexuality. It gets decided for you. I don't know whether they're going to blame a doctor for this, like they, when you're born with a gender, they blame the doctor for assigning you this gender. I don't know whether it works the same with orientation. But the point is, which I want to start off this video, when you ask Google, TikTok or ChatGPT, you're getting incorrect answers there. You know you're getting incorrect answers there. And it doesn't matter which side of that choice you fall. Whether you think that sexual preference is a preference, or whether you think it's an orientation that you have no control over, when you ask ChatGPT, Google or Twitter or TikTok, you're getting both of those blended into one. Right? So whichever one you agree with, you're getting incorrect information from the internet. You're getting told it's accurate, apart from ChatGPT, actually. ChatGPT at the bottom says, be very careful because ChatGPT makes mistakes. So it kind of gives you a disclaimer that it is wrong. But Google doesn't do this. TikTok and Twitter certainly don't do this. They make out, if you argue with them, then you're in some way evil, bad, wrong, a bigot. You're a evil guy. So let's break it down. First, I want you to think, why is it important to you as an individual that you get to decide what your choices are? Right? Your autonomy. Why is it important to you that the choice for what you decide in your life goes to you and nobody else? Because it's your human right. It's your free will to express your unique individual personality in whichever way you decide for yourself to do. Right? So if you don't choose it, if it's chosen for you, then that is not autonomy, that is not free will, then it's not yourself that chose that. For instance, say I am, like me now, I'm a straight man, right? So I think I'm straight, I choose to be straight. But if I want to in future choose to be gay, nobody can tell me not to. It's up to me to choose that, right? And how I choose that is through the expression of that, the behaviours which express that. So at the moment, you could say I express my straight sexuality by appearing to be a straight guy. I don't walk around with leather cowboy chaps on and a rainbow coloured feather sticking out my backside. I don't do anything like that. And when I meet women, I will have a different priority of speaking with women than I do with men. When I meet men, there's no flirting, there's no sexual nothing, right? I just will treat men in the same way I treat men because there's nothing sexual there. Whereas with women, I do treat women slightly differently because there may be some kind of sexual thing there potentially in future. So that's how I identify and express my straightness. But it's up to me to do that. I'm choosing those behaviours. I'm electing those behaviours. No one is forcing me to do that. There is no genetic component of my body which is programmed to do that. It's me, I choose that. And I had to learn those behaviours, right? I didn't do those when I was a baby. When I was a baby, when I was born, I was unaware of gender. I was unaware of orientation. I was unaware of anything. When I was born, I knew how to do two things. Cry to get my mother's attention and recognise falling. And get a fright when I was falling. That's the only two things babies know how to do. Genetically, that's what they're born with the knowledge of doing. Crying, right, which is linked to breathing. So when you come out, doctor will give you a slap on the bum. When you start crying and breathing are linked together. So when you cry, you learn to breathe. That's how babies learn how to breathe and cry at the same time when they're born. So that's the first thing a baby's genetically programmed to do. We know this from the Genome Project. The second thing is if you get a baby and you go, whoop, like that, it'll go, and it will like visibly be scared. So the reason why genetically babies know when they're falling down is so they learn, I don't want to fall down because falling down will damage my body. So we know the two things that babies are born with is ability to cry and breathe, which is a self-defense thing to keep them alive, and ability to recognise drops being dangerous and be afraid of them, which is again a self-defense thing. That's it. Babies don't know anything apart from that. Everything else, including sexual orientation, is therefore scientifically learnt behaviours. So if gender is physical, which we know it is because you're born with different hardware, your physical gender is your body, what you're born with, that's something you can't choose. You can't choose your gender, it gets chosen by your genetics. But your sexual behaviour is something you develop and learn, you can choose that. We know that sexual orientation is divorced from physical gender. Because one you're born with, one you learn. Right? So straight away we know the thing that you cannot choose, that you're born with, is physical. It's your physical body. The set of genitals and organs that you are born with, that is your physical gender. That's the part you don't choose. So no one can argue with that, not even you. How you choose to use that, what you choose to do with your physical body, that is a learnt behaviour which you're not born with, and that is why it's a sexual preference. So even though ChatGPT and Google will start to tell you, like I just found out there, it's a sexual orientation, that it cannot be chosen, we shouldn't call it a preference because you cannot choose it, I know for a fact that is wrong. Because I can at any point choose to express my sexuality in another way, if I want to. And nobody can tell me that's wrong. And if they did, it would be an infringement on my human rights, my basic autonomy as a unique individual. It would be immoral for them to do that. So how did we get into this scenario? Where some people are told, you are this, sexually. It's not up to you to choose that, right? So you have a son and you say, son, you were born gay. Your son says, but I don't want to be born gay. And you say, no, you're born gay, it's not your choice. You're immoral and evil if you argue with this. Because it's an orientation. It's what you are. Don't argue with what you are. If you argue with what you are, then that's immoral and bad. Then the child thinks, okay, well, I just want to be a good boy. I just want to be a good kid. I just want my parents to love me. If what I am is a gay child, then a gay child is what I am. And then they will express that through their behaviour in order to gain compliance. In order to gain validation. So therefore, sexual immorality is a choice which you make, and sexual preference, behavioural preference, is a choice which you make, and sexual preference in terms of who you are attracted to is a preference which you have complete control of. It's a choice you make. So the only thing that is not a choice is the physics of your body. Everything else is a choice. And we know that even though ChatGPT and Google, TikTok, Twitter, the rest of it will get this wrong, I know because I just looked up, in its own portrayal of that, it reveals that it does not know by giving you both sets of information blended together at the middle. So that means if your learnings are primarily from ChatGPT, Google, Twitter, TikTok, you're learning an abstract, which is a composite made of both sets of information blended together in the middle. So that's like saying, is English equal to French as a language? Obviously the answer is no. But if ChatGPT said, yes, English and French are equal, and then you said, okay, teach me English and French, and it taught you half English and half French, in theory, you know English and French, and they're the same. in practice, if you try to speak to someone who's English, they're not really going to understand what you're getting at. Likewise, if you go to France, they're totally going to ignore you because you won't be able to speak French very well. So in theory, learning things in this way seems like a good thing to do, and it seems like it gives you an element of knowledge and understanding. And if you're that person this affects, then you think, cool, I understand myself a bit better, I am happy, right? But in practice, this is not going to be good for your life. It's actually going to destroy your life. It's going to cause you health problems. It's going to cause you psychology problems. It's going to cause you social problems. And that's the reason I'm making this video. So, without further ado, let's get started. Why did God make them gay? Part 6. That's where we're up to. I say part 6 because I've done 5 previous videos called Why Did God Make Them Gay, having this exact conversation with different evidences considered, and what I was hoping was to have actual experience reports, testimonies from people who are gay, bisexual or transgender or whatever. But unfortunately, none of them are willing to go public and make those records. Now, I asked them why they're not willing to make those records public, and they say they don't want to be persecuted against. I was like, fine, okay, cool, I can understand that. Who is going to be persecuting you? And they said, my community. So keep that in mind before we carry on. Gay people don't want to talk about gayness to me on here because other gay people will persecute them. Transgender people don't want to make experience reports known on my channel because other transgender people will persecute them. So the persecution they primarily will blame on us, straight people, normal, everyday, no kink, no weirdness people. They blame us for the persecution. Like when I make this video, guarantee you I'm going to be called out for persecuting people, for asking these questions, for making this information known. I'm going to be called all kinds of names. The persecution is not coming from me. I'm making this video as an educational guide, right? I'm saying I don't know the answers, which is why I'm having the discussion now. I'm asking you the questions, I'm presenting you the evidence. We're going through most of the thinking out loud that people do in quiet, right? That's why I will be persecuted. I am going on record to say, I don't know the answer to these questions, but I have experience of my life, I have experience of asking other people, I have Google search, and I have science data. Let's put it all on the table. Let's look. Let's see what we got here. That's what I'm doing here in this video. So when we get to the end, it may not agree with what you think. And if it doesn't agree with what you think and it challenges what you think, and maybe what you think turns out to be incorrect, that's when you're going to say, Daily Corvid, you're persecuting me because you have disagreed with something I previously believed. So keep that in mind. This is an educational video. It is not for straight people only. It is not for gay people only. It's not for trans people only. It's for everyone who is interested in human beings. And 2, there is no persecution here. This is straight evidence. No pun intended. It's direct evidence. I honestly didn't mean to do that. But it's so easy to upset people, isn't it? Me saying straight up, straight down, straight evidence, using the word straight in a factual term is going to insult some gay people. Whereas me saying, oh, that's flipping gay. Say I get caught in the rain and the bus is late. Oh, that's gay. Why is the bus being gay? That's a mannerism. It's not insulting. But some gay people will use that as a vector to say I'm persecuting them based on me comparing them to a bus being late. Alright, so keep all this in mind. All this stuff is very important as we get towards a conclusion. So, let's continue. Why did God make them gay? Part 6. So I recently had interactions with a friend of mine who happens to be homosexual. And although we haven't openly had the discussion, I can tell he's upset with me for speaking about these things. But what I want him to understand and what I want you to understand is the reason these things are important to me is not of a sexual reason, right? The reason I want to speak about these topics and the reason I want to get to the bottom of the truth of these topics is not because I am going to have sex with him or another man, or it's not going to impact my sex life at all. It's nothing to do with that. It's because it impacts the rest of my life, which I find to be more important to me. Sex life isn't all that important to me. It just isn't. It's something that is there, something that I enjoy sometimes and other times I don't. But it's not a big deal to me in my life. For instance, if someone said to me, What's more important to you? Ethics and how your spiritual life goes, or meat and physics and how your sex life goes? If you could choose one or the other to be perfected and the other one to be completely evaporated from existence, which one would you choose? I would say spiritual life. Perfect my spiritual life, get rid of my sex life, if I had to choose. I just would. I don't feel like sex life is that important. Many people would say the opposite. Many people would say, make me an evil demon as long as I can continue to have sex with whoever I want. And that's them saying they're more interested in their sex life. And this goes back into the question, why did God make them gay? Right? Because they think in their head, their identity, their self, the things that make them a unique individual, they think that is something to do with sex. Something to do with physical attraction to another human being. They identify themselves through the prism of another person's sexuality and another person's view on their sexuality. That's how bad this gets. So, and that's really where I want to start this discussion. How can you say you were born gay, but also say you have autonomy and free will? Because if you were born in a sexuality before you knew what sexuality was, someone chose it for you, someone told you were born as that, because you don't know what you're born as, do you? If I sit a baby up in a baby chair and say, right, baby, what were you born as? It doesn't know. It hasn't got language skills. It doesn't know about gender, sexuality, transsexual feminism, or anything like that. It doesn't know anything. Like we went through, genetically, babies know two things. How to cry and breathe. How to be terrified when you get dropped. That's it. They don't know anything else. So that means in order for you to tell a baby you are a baby that's born gay on the point when it's born, you're choosing the sexuality for that baby. You are locking that baby out of its free will autonomy choice by telling it, this is what you are. If you don't do this, there's something wrong with you. Because you're this. So it's not the same, and this is the analogue which a lot of trans and gay people have made to me in the past, which I think is completely wrong. They say, well, on the same hand as you saying that it's wrong to tell a baby that they're definitely gay before they've figured it out, you can't tell a baby that a baby is straight before they've figured it out, because you're just as bad brainwashing a baby to be straight. No, because we know sex is a choice. So we're not saying that the baby is born straight or gay. We're saying the baby is born with free will and can choose at some point in its life what it's going to be. And if you say this baby was born gay, you have removed the choice for that child in future to, when it goes through puberty, make that choice. You are making the choice for that baby before it's even gone through puberty, which is abuse. Sexual abuse. It just is. If you want to pre-program a baby into sexual behaviours, is that not abusive, right? If you've got a 2-day-old baby and you are deciding what sex life that 2-year-old baby, two-day-old baby is going to have in future, based on you, not based on what it wants, because it's not even old enough to understand yet, hasn't developed, is that not clearly child abuse? Just think about it. Without your pre-existing bias or wanting to validate anything in your own life, like that's what I'm doing. I've removed my own life and I'm just considering the theoretical baby. If I have a son and that son is 2 days old on this planet, I know in my head my job is to make sure this 2-day-old baby continues to develop into the unique individual of its identity, which it has already. It's already born with its identity, but the identity is a thing which is going to develop. So it has got an identity there as like a seed, if you like, but that seed is going to germinate and grow out into a plant based on what the baby's experience and desires are, which is learnt behaviour. So it is my job as the parent then to make sure that it is not set in stone by someone else. It is not affected by external politics, that this baby never gets brainwashed or tricked or deceived into thinking You don't choose your own path. As soon as I let that 2-day-old baby think that its path should be set outside by someone else, I as a parent have failed. And this is another thing which gay and trans people I have spoken to will call out as persecution. They say, now you're having a go at my parents, you're blaming my parents. Which feeds back into this straw man, really, which is what it is, that there needs to be blame attached to sexuality. There is no blame attached to sexuality. I never said there was blame attached to sexuality. What there is responsibility. We are all responsible for what we use our bodies to do. The way we inflict our bodies on other people and the way we inflict other people's bodies upon ourselves, that is our responsibility, not blame. Blame means I'm saying it's your fault. Responsibility is me saying I am taking responsibility to fix this. Regardless of whose fault it was, if there's a problem, I will be responsible for fixing that problem. So responsibility is what we're talking about here, not blame. Blame is a way of saying I don't want responsibility, get it away from me, someone else can fix it and deal with it. Responsibility is a way of saying someone else caused it, I will be the one to fix it. You want responsibility to come to you, right? So it's an adult intelligence. So, what have we got so far? We have got, from birth, genetically, scientifically, factually, we know babies are only born with 2 responses. They can only do 2 things when they're born. Cry and breathe as one response of breathing and, crying. And being terrified of being dropped. That's the only things they know. Even eating, right? Even suckling on a breast, right? Babies don't know how to do that. Some of them take a long time to learn how to do this, and the mother has to be there to teach the baby how to do that. And that's how the mother bonds with a baby, by teaching them that first thing, how they're going to feed themselves, or how they're going to feed off the breast. So even that is something which is learned behaviour. So you know, and I know, if we are scientific, logical, factual, fair-minded and honest people, even though ChatGPT, Google, Twitter and TikTok will tell you differently, or try to tell you differently, factually speaking, there's nothing in the human genome, there is nothing in genetics which presets a baby's sexual orientation and preference. There just is not. It is learnt behaviour. The same as suckling, the same as walking, the same as being a Labour Party supporter or voting for Jeremy Corbyn or being a MAGA Trump guy. All this stuff is learnt behaviour, and that means it's a choice that you make. It's not preset by your biology in the way that having a male or female gender is. And that's the thing that you can't choose, your male and female gender. So, 23 minutes. We've set the proposition now. I'm not going to answer any of these questions now. What I want to do is extend an offer to you, anyone who watches these videos, gay, straight, transgender, whatever, unique individuals of all orientations, preferences and classifications, get in touch with me if you have something to say on the evidence that I've presented. And we will go through it. Like I say, I'm not here to persecute you, and I will protect you from anyone who does persecute you if they try to, while we have this conversation. And the reason this conversation is important is because the people who I have been friends with in the past who turned out to be gay are either all completely dead now, committed suicide, or trying to recover from suicidal thoughts that they've had recently. Now, I'm not going to name these people because they have their privacy. But that's the reason I am interested in this. It's not a sexual thing for me like it is for them. It's a survival thing. I want my friends to survive regardless of what they choose to do in their sex life. And I have noticed a 100% correlation between people who commit suicide who are male and people who think they were born gay. And that's what we're really getting at in the summary of this video after 24.5 minutes. I don't think we can say that anyone is born gay or straight. Nobody is born with sexual preference or orientation because it is not in your genes. It's a learnt autonomy, a free will behaviour. The facts of that are the Genome Project proves what every single genetics genome in the human genome pool does, and none of them link with being gay or not. And we know there are only two things that babies can do: cry and recognise being dropped. So everything else is learned. So that means GPT, Google, Twitter, TikTok, all these other influencers telling you that sexual preference is wrong and its orientation that you're born with are removing your free will choice as a baby, which is completely unethical, immoral and wrong. And we need to have studies done in open with real people's testimonies so that we can actually get the truth out on the table without having a fear of persecution by the media or other influencers or silly liberal muppets telling us that we're racist for having posed these questions, so that we can get to the truth. So please, I invite anyone who is interested or has something relevant to say to get in contact with me. I was going to say hook me up. No, don't hook me up, because that's another thing that will be sexualized. Don't sexualize it. Look me up so that I can record your testimony. You don't have to do it publicly if you don't want to. You can do it privately. I can remove your name and your identifying information. That's fine. That's usually what happens. But I want us to get to the bottom of this so we can conclusively say, are people born gay, yes or no? Here's the evidence. If the answer is no, why would people have said that in the first place and then claim there was evidence? What is the false evidence that they gave us, like what some of the stuff we looked at? And where does it lead us in terms of health, society, having a fruitful, long life where you are purposeful and happy? That's really what we're getting at. So that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. Like I say, please get in touch with me if you've got something to say or you have evidence or a testimony you want to present to me. You can do it in private or in public. It's up to you. I will respect all comers. So difficult not to propagandise and not to, drop yourself in it with wording. Anyone who has a testimony or experience or evidence, please get in touch with me. I will give you complete anonymity if you want it, or you can go public if you want it. I will protect you as far as I can from any persecution from either the gay, trans lobby or straight people, whoever, I don't care. And the point is, it's a learning experience here because there's so much propaganda out there, false information, Google, TikTok, Twitter, ChatGPT. We're only going to get to the truth if we work together and we recognise there is that false information out there. So that's all for now. Please get in touch with me and we'll go from there. Hope you enjoyed that and you learnt something. God bless you all. And I'll see you lovely people in the next one. Bye now.